No one has definitively proven that extraterrestrials do not exist. Therefore, extraterrestrials must exist. Scientists haven't proven that this new treatment works. Therefore, it is completely ineffective. Both claims feel like reasoning, but they are doing something entirely different. Each begins by admitting a gap in our knowledge, such as we don't know something or another, which is acknowledging our ignorance. So far, so good. But then things get kinda weird. So, therefore, I can fill that knowledge gap with my preference and call it a day. That's the argument from ignorance in all of its deceptive glory. It's quite a head-scratcher, and it's used so often you may not even notice it. But if I'm doing my job, you'll start seeing it virtually everywhere, because your beep detector is about to receive a major upgrade. Here's another head-scratcher you can add to the update right now. I call it the belief versus evidence thought experiment, and it's been getting a lot of mileage online for decades. It goes something like this. A large see-through cylinder is filled with marbles. The total number ends in either an odd or an even number, because no other options are possible. Then someone says to you, "I think it's odd." But before counting the marbles to find out if he's right, the man asks you, "Do you believe me?" And before you can answer, he adds another question. If you don't believe it's odd, then you must believe it's even, right? Nope, that's wrong, and here's why. Not believing the marbles end in an odd number does not mean you believe they end in an even number. The correct answer is C. You don't believe or disbelieve either option because no evidence has been provided one way or another to better inform your belief. The odds of being right remain unchanged at 50% either way. So the only rational answer is I don't know. He offered zero proof. Then he tried to trap you. Disagree with me, and you must believe it's even. That's the burden of proof, shifted in real time. Most people fall for it, because it feels like common sense. Not odd, therefore even. Logically true. But the moment you agree, you've made a claim, and now you owe evidence you don't have. Now you're both stuck, both believing without proof. Only one move satisfies the evidence. You have to actually count those marbles. And now that you understand the structure of the argument from ignorance along with its burden-shifting companion, you'll start seeing it everywhere. In courtrooms, in comment sections, in advertising, in scripture, in science headlines, and, if you're honest, in your own head. This fallacy decides what you'll swallow and what you'll refuse about your health, your money, your safety, and your vote. It's the engine that turns "I don't know," a form of ignorance, into "therefore my answer is," and you fill in the blank from there. Notice how not knowing in one breath becomes "therefore I'm justified in believing whatever I want" in the next. In his 2011 layperson-friendly title, Thinking Fast and Slow, Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman succeeded in taking the dry academic language of System 1 and System 2 constructs and transformed them into a unified mainstream theory of human nature. Here Kahneman describes System 1 cognition as fast, automatic, effortless, impulsive, and always on, in contrast to System 2 cognition, which is slow, deliberate, effortful, analytical, and notoriously lazy. Lastly, while System 1 is largely unconscious as a dimension of cognition, System 2 is conscious as a dimension of metacognition. And as you will see, this distinction matters. The big problem, as you now know, is that System 2 is famously lazy. It requires effort, sometimes a great deal of effort, to act independently of System 1. But System 1 has no such handicap. It acts automatically, sometimes in our best interests, but often not. Consider impulse buying. System 1 sees the candy and reacts. System 2 is the one that reminds you of your healthy eating or long-term financial goals. Driving on a familiar highway is mostly System 1, but parallel parking in a tight spot? That's when System 2 takes the wheel. When a frustrating email arrives, System 1 wants to snap back. But System 2 suggests waiting until you're calm. Neurologically, System 1 is rooted in the amygdala, where threat detection, emotional regulation, and memory consolidation occur automatically as a byproduct of human evolution. System 2 resides largely in the prefrontal cortex, where executive functions like planning, decision-making, emotional regulation, impulse control, and working memory abound. So, let's break it down together. The argument from ignorance has a simple two-sided coin shape. The first side says, it hasn't been proven true, therefore it's false. Wrong. The second side says it hasn't been proven false, therefore it's true. Wrong again. Both faces share one hidden assumption, that a gap in our knowledge is a fact about the world. It isn't. A gap is a fact about us, about what we've looked for, what we've found, and what we simply haven't gotten to yet. No one has proven it is a statement about the state of the evidence. It is not by itself a statement about the state of reality, but it's old enough to have a Latin name. In 1690, the philosopher John Locke formalized argumentum ad ignorantium, known today as the argument from ignorance. Locke pointed out that demanding someone disprove your claim and treating their failure as proof they're right is just intellectual bullying. You just watched him shift the burden of proof. And it's a common tactic in adversarial settings. Many clever tactics can smoke out the smugglers of shifting the burden of proof. But first, there's an important precept to understand. The burden of proof is always with the person making the claim. It is never your job unless you're actually making a claim. So, when you notice someone doing this, they are tacitly telling you they don't have evidence. Because if they did, they would show it to you. Here are 6 of the usual suspects that smuggle in the shifting of the burden of proof. Notice that they have been hiding in plain sight all along. Tactic 1. Well then, prove me wrong. The analysis. No claim defended, no evidence offered, the whole job handed across the table in 4 words. Its cousin is, you can't prove it didn't happen. Tactic 2. Show me one study that says it's dangerous. Analysis. Demands a specific artifact and treats its absence as a clean bill of health. Devastating because it sounds rigorous. Tactic 3. So you're saying it's all just a coincidence? Analysis. Forces you to supply an alternative explanation on the spot. If you can't produce one in 10 seconds, theirs wins by default. Note that they still haven't argued for anything. Tactic 4. I'm just asking questions. The disclaimer version. Analysis. Sheds the burden by denying a claim was ever made, while the implication sits in the room doing all the work. Usually paired with, why are you so afraid to look into it? Which converts the burden into a question about your character. Tactic 5. Do your own research. Analysis outsources the burden entirely and reframes your failure to find their evidence as a failure of your diligence. The most modern of the set and the most effective because it exits the conversation while appearing to win it. Tactic 6. Nobody has been able to debunk it. Analysis. Invents a phantom crowd of failed refuters and offers their imaginary silence as support. And now the universal counter to all 6. You made the claim, so the burden of proof is on you. I'm just declining to believe you until you provide compelling evidence. I'm not trying to prove anything. You are. You can't prove me wrong is never a reason to believe anything. For instance, I can't prove that Santa Claus isn't real. So my failure to disprove Santa doesn't somehow make him real. Obviously. The fix for overcoming fallacies like the argument from ignorance is understanding how your own mind actually works. How cognition runs alongside emotion, not above it. What your unconscious system 1 hands off to your conscious system 2. And which system is doing the talking at the exact moment you feel most certain that's the work. Well, that's a geeky way to explain the work. Here's the easier way. It can be summarized in just one word: evidence. Demand evidence from others and yourself. In my estimation, that alone will place you in the top 25% of the critical thinking literacy index. And we're just getting started. In part 2, we address how our culture treats "I don't know" as a confession of weakness. This anxiety-inducing pressure compels us to fill the gap with whatever's nearest and then call it thinking. We're going to fix that too. For all of this, the asking price is a like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, I'm John Bala, reminding you to think critically and choose wisely.